You can see I have up here a very harmless and unassuming graphic, and that's because today we're going to talk about the files. You know the ones that I'm talking about, and they're the ones that, if I'm honest and open about it, because we can't be, then no one will see this video. So we're going to talk about a bunch of dots that started coming together in July, and that may explain why it is that we have not seen the inside of those files. Before we get into that, if you could do me a favor and just hit that like button. Between that and just including a comment at the bottom of this video, that's really all you need to do to help any creator. I respond to just about all of my comments because I really am interested to know what you think about the topic. So let's get into this. So today we're going to talk about this. And as you know what that is, hopefully you do, I'm not able to say that name. That's going to flag this and this video will go nowhere. So I'm going to say today we're going to talk about Jonathan Smith. But know that who I'm really talking about is the person on the cover of that file. So just to give you a little bit of background, I supported Trump in the last 3 elections. And the first one, in 2016, I did so very reluctantly because I grew up in New Jersey, right outside of New York City, had a lot of interaction in the city all my life, my family, and I knew Trump as a business entrepreneur. I didn't know him as a politician, but I didn't necessarily think he was the best Republican candidate. I was very hesitant to support Trump in the 2016 election. Later, in the 2020 and the 2024 elections, I supported him because he was the only one offering us kind of a lifeline. So, yes, I did support him in later years, but in that first one, I was not necessarily a fan of Trump. My attitude was, I'm voting for Trump because I could never vote for Hillary. Now I'm giving you that background to explain that I don't look at Trump through rose-colored glasses. I'm not going to apologize for him. If he screws up, I have no problem calling him out for it. And so when I say I don't believe that Trump is in the Jonathan Smith binder or in those files in any way that is a serious implication, I am saying that not because I want to protect him or because I can't imagine him doing anything like that, but because I believe in the same logic that Megyn Kelly does. If there had been even the smallest kernel of blame that the Biden administration could have pinned on Trump for the Jonathan Smith files, they would have done so without a moment's hesitation. The fact that we have not seen unredacted versions of Trump's presence in those files tells me he's not there in any way that's going to implicate him in any illegal activity or anything that would be character assassination of him. Now, that doesn't explain this. I don't know. I'm working out how I think this fits in, but I think the date is relevant. So let's keep the date of June 5th in mind, because I think we might need to circle back to this tweet, because clearly it is important. If anyone should know, it would be Elon. And then again, I wonder if Elon's in there as well, but that's a story for another day. For now, let's stick with the idea of Trump and those files. If Trump is not in those files, if you want to go with me on my journey and say, like Megyn Kelly said, if he was in those files, the Democrats would have told us about it and he never would have become president in 2024. So, if he's not in those files, why then has there been such a radical shift on the part of his administration from let's get it all out there to let's hide it away? I think we might have an answer. But first off, there is a myth out there, and you can either call it myth, you can call it spin, you can call it misinformation. I don't know what you want to refer to it as, fake news. All I can tell you is I have done the research and looked to see where exactly it is that Trump said that he would release the files. And the thing is, he never really did. He promised transparency and he said he was open to it. But he never actually said he would be releasing those files. In fact, I went back and I tried to find whatever clips that I could. And this was what everyone is basing this idea that he campaigned on releasing them. This is what they're basing it off of.
But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, it endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
So he never actually did say that, you know, he would release them. He said he would take a look at it. And everybody just took that to mean he would be releasing it. Honestly, in that clip, he talks more about releasing the Kennedy files and things like that. So let's be reasonable and fair and say he never really said that he would release them. Now, do I think that on the basis of the promises of being transparent and on the idea of making America great again by draining the swamp and doing all those other things, implicit in that, should it include releasing the files? Absolutely. I'm not defending his decision for keeping it hidden in any way. But I am saying you got to be legitimate and say, did he ever really campaign saying that he would? Well, no, he didn't really. Now, other people that are now in his cabinet, such as Kash Patel, they did say that they would if put in that position. So, but that's incumbent on them, not on Trump. And again, I'm not excusing him. I'm just being realistic about all this. So, did he campaign promising it? Not really. So, has he done anything going against his campaign promise? Well, I would still say yes, but not directly. Regardless of that, though, the complete about-face from his cabinet members just in the months since he took office, that is a problem. That brings us to this February kerfluffle where Bondi just, I don't even know what the heck she was thinking. I don't even know if it was her that was thinking it. I don't know whose brilliant idea it was to give out these binders that had no information in it. Who thought that making it a big PR thing was going to be a smart move? But whoever it was, I would assume that they are no longer employed, whoever's idea this was. But this was a PR disaster. Better to have said nothing than to make this big deal over nothing. But I think that this was Pam Bondi on her own. Whether she felt pressure because she had made that offhanded comment saying, you know, it's on my desk that I'm going to be looking at it. And everybody took that to mean that it literally was on her desk as opposed to on her to-do list. Regardless, this woman, I don't find her to be very bright. And so I don't think that she necessarily thought things through. I don't know. I don't know if it was her idea or someone else's, but this was a mistake. From A to Z, a huge mistake. And Trump is paying for it, but it's really Bondi's mistake. Unfortunately, the Jonathan Smith files were something that it was not a good idea to make a mistake with. And that's part of the problem. Now, if you look back and you see what it was that Trump was saying in 2024 about the files, you can tell he doesn't really think it's an important thing. And yes, it is an important thing. Yes, he's wrong, 100% wrong. But you have to realize that Trump doesn't necessarily care what other people think is important. All he cares about is what he thinks is important. And if he wasn't giving it any attention, I mean, part of the thing is he's got a staff of people to pay attention to things so that when he misses things, they're still put onto his radar. And I truly don't think he understood how desperately people wanted that dealt with, wanted the Jonathan Smith files released, all of it. I don't think he understands it. And that's why we're going to later see him kind of being like, what's the big deal? To him, it's not a big deal. Is he wrong? Yes, 100%. But go tell Trump that. Like, he's not the type of person that cares whether or not you think he's wrong. He only cares if he thinks he's wrong. And he never thinks he is. So now is we're going to circle back to this, and we're going to start to build a little bit of a timeline. So you have here on June 5th, when Elon and Trump were having a bit of a disagreement. Now, was Elon's post the catalyst? I don't think so. I honestly am starting to think that maybe Elon was just trying to poke the bear. And poke the bear in a way of saying, yo, Trump, you're not paying attention to this, and you need to be. Now, whether he was doing that for good reasons or bad, that's up to you. And you can figure that out. I don't really know what to do with Elon since, I would say in the last 4 months. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not really sure what he's up to. But I do think that this was his way of saying, yo, wake up. This is an important topic, and you're ignoring it. Then you have, in early July, this meeting at the White House. Benjamin Netanyahu comes over and meets with Trump. And since then, Trump's entire position changed. This is when he went from, oh, well, we'll see, whatever. Now, was Elon's post intended to maybe be the distraction to make it seem like that was why Trump was not releasing them? I don't know. I don't think that of Elon, but who knows who's paying his bills? Nobody knows. But either way, after this meeting, things started to happen very quickly, because this happens second week in July. July 6th through 8th is when the visit took place. Then, a few days later, you have Charlie Kirk talking on the Charlie Kirk Show about the Jonathan Smith files. And in fact, discussing that intelligence agency that he believes that Jonathan Smith was a part of, was an asset for. And let me tell you, this did not go over well. And we know that for a fact, because now is when the chain of events starts to heat up. Because after this, you have the debate heard round the world. And I believe this was July 15th. Charlie spoke on his show, I believe it was July 13th, July 15th. You have this debate between Dave Smith and Josh Hammer that Charlie Kirk was the moderator for. This happens, and you've now got multiple things happening at once that all lead up to, and if you haven't heard this guy yet, I strongly recommend you watch him. He does a great job. This is Baron Coleman. I believe it's called the Real Baron Podcast, but he has gone through and done the Google Trends searches to find out that it was after this meeting that after this debate, all those searches started happening to all the characters that we are now very familiar with after the events of September 10th. Some people say this was the reason, this debate was the reason, but I think they're leaving out the very important things that were also happening at the same time, and that includes that meeting with Netanyahu and Trump. Because the same day that the debate heard round the world happens,
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why do you think that is?
Why they would be so interested? He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake.
So how come with all this I'm saying I don't think Trump is in those files? Because if he had been in those files, we would have known it the minute the Biden administration took over. Or if there were other compromising people on the Democratic side, then we would have found out, if not in 2021, we would have found out the minute Kamala Harris took over the candidacy in 2024. So the fact that we didn't know about it, and the fact that he really didn't give it too much credit. He wasn't paying attention to it. If he was in there, he would have been paying very close attention to it. But instead, it all started to ramp up after that July meeting. And after what happened on September 10th, I don't think he is in the Jonathan Smith files. I think someone else is in the Jonathan Smith files. And that is the person that he has to protect. Now, who is it that could hold anything over the President of the United States that the President would protect him? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And please don't forget to hit that like button. And if you like the video, please subscribe. If you like this video, you very well may like the video where I go through and I track just how many of the MAGA influencers, and let me tell you, it's a lot more than you think, that have had a pattern whirlwind storybook romance and ended up with their wives who all seem to have Israeli connections. Did you know Jack Posobiec honeymooned in Israel? Yeah, there's a lot more where that came from. So be sure to check out that video. Thank you very much for listening, and you have a great day.